On behalf of the conference committee, I would like to thank each and every one of you for your attendance and support of the 8th Annual Massachusetts Colleges Online Conference. Now, by rights, this should have been the 9th Annual Conference, but we did skip the year as we've been in transition as an organization, of which some of you may or may not know. But we've been productive in that amount of time. We've adopted a new mission focused on revitalizing our membership and across the state and community colleges. If you notice on your program, there's a paragraph on the first page which encapsulates our new mission, and it's our intent to continue to develop MCO as a living and breathing entity. And to that effect, it was the unanimous sentiment of each institutional representative member of MCO to continue to offer this conference as it reflects current directions, which is the innovations of all of you here. In learning in all its various forms and expressions. So, in part of that recognition, I would like all the campus liaisons to stand and be recognized, or if you're already standing in line, wave your hand. So moving ever forward in these directions, as well as today's conference, I would like to introduce and welcome to the podium Mr. Fred Clark, who is the Executive Vice President and Vice President for External Affairs at Bridgewater State College.
Thank you very much. Our political skills are few, but we knew enough to wait till the end of the line past the podium for lunch before we began the program. But I want to welcome all of you to Bridgewater State University. I know it's been a few years since the MCO conference has been here at Bridgewater, and you might have noticed from the construction fences all around as you came in, and maybe a few cranes that you've seen, that Bridgewater State is literally, figuratively under construction. We have a brand new dorm being built right out these windows for 500 beds. We have just about completed construction on a $98 million Science and Mathematics building. We are opening a new financial aid, admissions, and welcome center. Probably at the end of the street, you may have seen where the houses were recently bulldozed. We also have a new parking garage over in the corner here. Luckily, you didn't have to park over there, but someday you may have to as we change the configuration of the campus. We're eliminating a whole bunch of parking on this campus, replacing it with a parking garage, and replacing it with green space so that our students don't get run over. It's kind of practical on our part. But we have a $100 million transformation plan underway, and we've completed $500 million worth of new projects and reconstruction over the past 10 years as well. We're also investing in human capital. We have a faculty hiring plan underway. We've actually added more faculty than any other institution, public or private, on a percentage basis in Massachusetts. And we have 319 faculty currently, and we're on our way to 350 over the next couple of years. Programmatically, we've just recently named 2 of our new colleges, the Ricciardi College of Business and the Bartlett College of Science and Mathematics. We also are launching an Institute for Social Justice here at Bridgewater State, which will give us a unique character, I think. It will help underscore a lot of the programming we currently do. And another item of interest is we're launching a paid internship program for our students. Like your students, our students work, 80% of them do. Of that 80%, 50% work more than 30 hours a week. They don't have time to take advantage of internships, so we're providing $500,000 to create 200 paid internships beginning in the fall. So that's our Bridgewater story. I want to congratulate you all for staying together over the years through MCO and for being here today. I know that MCO has been under construction over these years as well. I want to offer my personal congratulations and thanks to David Kelly and Suzanne Canassi as well for all of the leadership that they've demonstrated over the years. I know David and Suzanne are getting COD awards, but I told them as I was walking in, they deserve Blue Whale awards for the amount of effort that they've undertaken over the years to keep MCO alive. It's been tenuous with the budget reductions, we know all that. So while MCO may have changed form somewhat, what hasn't changed is the demand that you're seeing from your students for alternative delivery vehicles for education. That demand has only increased. Bridgewater State, as a matter of fact, our demand for online education is up 10% just over last year, as an example. So I want to thank you all for the work that you're doing in addressing that need. I want to thank you for the entrepreneurial, creative spirit that you bring and the effective ways that you've identified through the course of this conference and previous conferences to deliver as well. I want to thank on behalf of our President, Dana Molefari, the conference sponsors today, and I also want to thank the conference committee and our own Mary Fuller, Darlene Marks, for putting today's event together, and for all the volunteers who make it happen. Again, welcome to Bridgewater State, and good luck through the course of the day.
Thank you, Fred. Moving into the next portion of our program, I want to introduce another distinguished speaker, Mr. Patrick Lauren, who is the Chief Information Officer of Framingham State University and has been a very important supporter of this conference. Patrick's support is honored, as he has been longstanding CIO of Framingham, where he oversees the online environments of that university. And he's also had actually 2 stints as a founding chief technology officer for companies within the online media and e-learning industries. Patrick holds an MBA from Babson College, BSBA from Northeastern University, and he's also an online instructor for Northeastern University's online MBA program. So Patrick's support is very important to us. I would like to call Patrick to the podium to introduce the next portion of our program.
Thank you, Michael. Before I introduce our keynote speaker, Paul Gillin, it would be remiss if I didn't first acknowledge the hard work of the planning committee for the conference. So I would like to just take a minute before calling Paul up and introducing him to acknowledge their work and to do so for each of the 5 individuals. So if when I call you, you could just stand and do your king or queen wave to the group so we all know who you are, that would be great. So briefly, the first individual to thank you've already met, Michael Badalato, the Senior Academic Technology Officer from Middlesex Community College. Also, Lynn Yolente, who is the Dean of Academic and Institutional Technology for Mount Wachusett Community College. Lynn. And also Mary Fuller, Director of Continuing and Distance Education for Bridgewater State University. Also, Lynn Zayak, Director of the Center for Instructional Technology and Online Learning at Westfield State University. And last but certainly not least, my colleague at Framingham State University and also the MCO Conference Chair, Robin Robinson, the Director of Educational Technologies. So our keynote speaker today is someone that I've known for a long time. And Paul, as I was thinking about how to introduce you to this group, I couldn't really decide on whether or not to use the long bio, the medium bio, or the short bio. And I decided to go with the personal short bio. Is that all right? All right. I encourage you to kind of read through the program and Paul's background that's included in that. But I can speak to the relationship I've had with Paul and kind of illustrate his background through that prior to him getting up to speak to you. And I can remember several years ago going to a program put on by the Center for Information Management Studies over at Babson College. And Paul was the speaker and at the time the editor-in-chief for Computer World magazine. And I can remember coming away from that thinking, wow, he's a very insightful guy with the capacity to bring the bigger picture into context where he could connect with the audience and really articulate things in a unique way. and I really like the style of his presentation. Fast forward a few years later, I'm working with Paul. And he and I were founding executive team members for a startup. And I found through that process that Paul also has quite a bit of substance in combination with that style. And we built that company, and it's now listed on NASDAQ, and Paul and his team, which he built from the ground up, we were, I think, 4 and 5 number of employees. And he really provided the substance for the value that company provides even to this day. Paul and I went on our separate ways. We left Tech Target and did other things, and I'm in the car, and I have NPR on. And all of a sudden I hear a familiar voice, and it's Paul's voice. And it turns out that Paul was once again in on the ground floor of the sort of social media phenomenon that we're all familiar now with. Has written some books on the subject, is a consultant to Fortune 100 companies, and obviously an acknowledged expert in the field. So I can't really think of anyone better with the unique combination of sort of a journalistic eye, business acumen, and a voice for radio. Notice I didn't say a face for radio. Who can really help us kind of bring things into context, sort of the outside-in perspective, to help us kind of make sense of this Web 2.0 world and what it means to us as educators, regardless of what role we play. So, Paul, please welcome.
Yeah, that's great. That was an experience doing the .com thing with Pat, and I think I was employee number 6, and Pat, I think you came in just before me, so we were in on the ground floor, and that's, I think everyone should do a startup once. You know, it's probably all you're going to be able to take is to do it once. Excuse me just a second. I am using a new presentation tool called Prezi. Some of you may be familiar with. I've never used it before, this presentation. It has some characteristics that I've been told may incur motion sickness. So if that happens, just look down when I'm changing the slides. I really appreciate the chance to talk to you because education has been a very important part of my life. Both of my parents were professional educators. My father was a college professor, and so I was around higher education all of my life and just have a tremendous appreciation for what you do. I'm also aware that education is not the fastest changing field in the world. And that I think we are at a time when there is some urgency about the need to change. And so what I'm going to talk about today is what's happening out there in the world that your students are entering or may be in right now that is making their lives very uncertain and their futures very chaotic. And this is a change that is enabled by technology. It's very exciting technology, but it's having some very scary consequences. And I think it's going to demand that we rethink a lot of the traditional approaches to education, particularly as our students are more and more untethered and are enabled with technology that they can take with them. I'll start out with just a short clip from a video.
Right now.
That's a clip from a video created by Eric Qualman for a book called Socialnomics. There's a longer version of that on YouTube, and other videos just like it, dramatizing the numbers, the sensational growth of these social networks and this peer sharing culture that's evolving out of the Internet. The Internet is finally beginning to realize the potential that was forecast for it nearly 20 years ago. And in the process, it is disrupting some things in a major way. And education is something that is going to be touched, I think, fundamentally by these changes. Now, Seth Godin, who is an author who's written many books about marketing, has a new book out called Stop Stealing Dreams. It's free. You can download it, you can share it, you can do anything you want. There's even people who have, readers of his, who have created podcast versions of this book. That's the new paradigm of publishing, by the way. You give away the book and then you make your money through other means. And in this book, he talks about, this is a book about education, about the future of education. And Seth Godin starts with a pretty fundamental proposition. School was invented to create a constant stream of compliant factory workers to the growing businesses of the 1900s. It continues to do an excellent job at achieving this goal, but it's not a goal we need to achieve any longer. In other words, schools were created to do this. They were created to turn out workers who could work on factory lines, and were oriented around getting the product out the door. For the last 150 years, the goal of the corporation has been to get the product out the door. But there aren't as many products to go out the door anymore. The manufacturing economy in this country is in long-term decline, and that will continue as China and other low-income countries continue to come up the curve. And so our value in the world will increasingly be defined by innovation and service and our ability to bring unique ideas to the market. That's why the computer industry has continued to be such an engine of growth for the U.S. economy. It's an innovation-based industry. So getting the product out the door is not so important. But what schools have taught for many years are the skills that are needed to work in large hierarchical organizations. And the structures that we have put in place to manage these organizations, job titles, job descriptions, performance reviews, organization charts, departments, units, business units, were all designed around the idea of getting the product out the door. Everyone was a cog in the machine, and the important thing was that the person be at their machine, turning the dial at the right time, whether physically or metaphorically, in order to get that product out the door. Access to knowledge was power. In hierarchical organizations, the people at the top know all kinds of stuff that people below them don't know. And once you have that knowledge, that becomes the source of your power. You do your job and you'll be rewarded with loyalty. I grew up in Poughkeepsie, New York. Poughkeepsie, New York was at the time home to IBM's mainframe division, the largest manufacturing plant IBM had in the 1970s. Nearly everybody I knew as a kid was an IBM brat. Their dads worked for IBM, and they had good jobs, and they had worked for IBM since they got out of college, and they would work for IBM until they reached mandatory retirement age. There was a pact between those people and the IBM Corporation that if they gave IBM their loyalty, IBM would return the favor. And that was the case in many industries and with many large companies until recently. Today, I get calls every couple of months from former colleagues, people in their 40s and 50s, who are suddenly out of work. They're out of work and they have no idea what they're going to do because the company that they've worked at for 20 years has turned its back on them. They've been given no training. They've been given no preparation for the vagaries of an unemployed world. They don't have the skills that they need to survive when their jobs have gone away and their skills are no longer needed, and they don't know what to do next. And these are people who are very disillusioned and they feel betrayed because they had always expected that, like IBM, the company would always be there for them and would always take care of them. And this has led to a certain amount of entrenched unemployment that aren't reflected in the figures. We're becoming essentially nomads now, where we are responsible for our own skills, our own career management. And this will be more and more the case. It will be very much the case for the young people whom you are turning out into the world right now. Part of their core competency must be managing their own careers because nobody else is going to take care of them anymore. This has created, of course, the unemployment statistics are ugly to look at, and I won't read the whole eye chart here, but the point of it is that people who are out of work for a long time have a harder and harder time finding a job. And that there is an entrenched level of unemployment that is people who have simply stopped looking for jobs, and we don't know what that level is. But certainly there are many people in their 40s and 50s right now who are feeling aimless and adrift because they were not taught how to maintain their own skill base. And the important thing that I want you to take away from this is that we can't prepare for careers anymore. And you can't prepare your students for careers anymore because their jobs that they train for may not exist 10 years down the road. You need to prepare them to acquire the skills that they will need to deal with this constant, entrenched, sort of systemic uncertainty that we are dealing with in this new economy. I prepared to be a journalist. I trained to be a journalist. In the 1970s, journalism was a really good field. This is right after Watergate. And a lot of people were flocking into journalism. Well, working in the newspaper industry was a pretty good job. You would, if you got to be a senior reporter or a columnist at a big newspaper, you could make a six-figure salary and write 5-6 stories a week. Pretty nice job. And very, very stable, because no industry was more stable, other than utilities, no industry was more stable than the U.S. newspaper industry. Witness the U.S. newspaper industry. Since 2006, this business has declined by over half. Circulation at U.S. newspapers is at World War II levels right now. And it's only getting worse. It's only going downhill. New Orleans, 2 weeks ago, became the latest major city to lose its daily newspaper, and this will continue to go on. 45% of the jobs in the U.S. newspaper industry have disappeared over the last 6 years. So much for a nice, stable industry to work in. There are other industries that are being affected like this right now. How about if you're a librarian, if you train to be a librarian? What has the internet done to librarians and to librarians? If you were trained to be a postal worker, the U.S. Postal Service has been demolished by email and is essentially trying to reinvent itself now as a package delivery service. In the process, it has taken hundreds of thousands of people who thought that they have guaranteed lifetime employment through their unions, and it has laid them off. And this will spread to other industries as technology continues to disrupt. Magazines. And these are some of the iconic magazines that I grew up with. Women's Day, Red Book, Playboy. I didn't grow up with Playboy, but Country Living, National Enquirer. This is circulation changes from 2001 to 2009. I'm interested in this because I'm a media geek, but also because I think it's representative of how completely a technology can disrupt an industry. 2 years ago, I subscribed to ESPN magazine because I saw a circulation promotion that gave me a year of ESPN, 26 issues for $2. And I thought, well, I'm going to do this just for doing it, right? I didn't continue my subscription. I let it lapse, but then Golf magazine started to arrive. I never subscribed to Golf magazine. I'm a terrible golfer. I would never have any reason. That came for 6 months, and then Sports Illustrated began arriving and continues to arrive every week in my mailbox. I've never subscribed to any of these magazines. These magazines, I saw a promotion for National Geographic magazine a couple of weeks ago, $1 an issue, $12 for a year of National Geographic. Can you imagine that? How bad are things when they're practically paying you to take the product now? This is an industry that is in collapse, and that is not surprisingly because digital disrupts so fundamentally a business like that. The rise of the 17-hour journalist is a piece that ran in business actually, I don't remember where it ran, but it was about a new publication, online publication called The Business Insider, an online news company where journalists typically work 17-hour days and send 150 tweets in addition to posting 10 to 15 articles a day. 10 to 15 articles a day. Article said, a day in the life of Deputy Editor Joe Wiesenthal starts at 4 a.m. and runs to almost 9 p.m. During that day, he will write about 15 posts on Business Insider and send 150 tweets, plus engage with readers and much more. It's an exhausting schedule even for the 31-year-old Mr. Wiesenthal, who says he sometimes needs to crash for a whole day, unable to do anything but watch TV. This is what that stable, reliable business has become. It's burning people out at a very young age. It's working them almost literally to death. And this will happen to other industries as the internet takes its toll, as international competition, as globalization eliminates boundaries between companies and forces more and more people into lower wage environments. What's happening to retail right now? It's getting killed. Find an electronics retailer if you can. I think there's still a few Best Buy stores left. Everybody else is gone. Why? Go into a Best Buy and watch people walking down the aisle with their smartphones, scanning barcodes, and comparison shopping on Amazon. And then they buy from Amazon. I have twin 14-month-old daughters, and we buy our diapers on Amazon. It's cheaper to buy the diapers on Amazon than it is to buy them at BJ's Wholesale Club. This company has figured out something that is disrupting the retail channel in a fundamental way. I work with Procter & Gamble and their digital advisory board. They're tracking this very closely. The only segments of the retail industry that are growing right now are big box retailers and Amazon. And everybody else is shrinking, and shrinking quickly. Do you think it's any surprise that there's so many abandoned shopping malls out there? It's because retail is being disrupted by the rapid availability of low-cost products that can be shipped free to your home. Another example of technology disrupting fundamentally an industry that appeared to be immune from disruption. Publishing industry, the marketing and advertising industry, even packaged goods industries are beginning to be disrupted because of globalization. Anyone ever seen this site, Fiverr? Fiverr is a website where people post descriptions of what they'll do for $5. What they'll do for $5. This is a huge website. They advertise extensively on Facebook. People will do amazing stuff. Now this is kind of wacky, this stuff. I will channel your Angels Internationally known tea leaf reader feature. Read that. I'll say happy birthday to Marilyn Monroe or do endorsement voiceovers for $5. I'll brainstorm business name ideas for $5. Or record a professional voiceover for $5. But it gets a lot better than that. There are people on Fiverr who are declared as top contributors, and they'll do things like create a 1-minute promotional video for your company. A well-made 1-minute promotional video for $5. How do they do it? They live in Beijing. $5 is not a bad wage for a couple of hours work. All kinds of jobs which can now be done virtually are now moving automatically to the lowest cost workforce. And these people are using brokerage sites like this, like Fiverr, to broker their skills and to undercut the U.S. wage. I paid, 6 years ago when I started my business, I paid $750 for a designer to design a logo. I had a logo design last year. It took a month, by the way, with all the proofs and such. Last year I had a logo designed by a company in India for $28. They sent me 4 different concepts. I chose one, and 48 hours later, there it was. All the different formats I needed. $28. Imagine how that business is being disrupted. It's hard to imagine where this will spread next. Now, this is leading to another point I want to make, which is about the distribution of influence and how the choices that we make and the choices that our markets make are being disrupted also fundamentally by the emergence of all of us, because we now are all publishers. We all have a voice if we choose to have it. We can now all have an audience and we can influence a market. I call this influence or influence inversion, and it's an amazingly powerful and exciting concept. The idea that anybody can now reach a global audience with something that they want to say, can build a following, and can build credibility and can build businesses on the virtue of their own creativity, their own innovation, and using these free channels is very, very empowering. It's also very, very destructive. It's going to mess things up. How many people here have used a site like TripAdvisor or Yelp or a travel advisory service where you have made reviews, you have made decisions that have been somehow driven by user reviews? TripAdvisor has, most of you, TripAdvisor has 60 million reviews of travel destinations. Yelp, which is a similar service for local services, has 40 million reviews. And these are becoming extremely important marketing tools particularly for small businesses, but in the travel industry, for the entire industry. Now, let's say we want to stay in Boston. We can go to TripAdvisor and we can look at the Hotel Commonwealth, which is the #1 rated hotel in Boston on TripAdvisor, with 347 reviews and comments like, lovely hotel with amazing service, first-class hotel, fabulous views, and attentive. On the other hand, we can look at the Courtyard Boston Downtown Tremont, which is number 69 out of 73 hotels on TripAdvisor, with reviews like very loud, very small, worst hotel experience ever, or felt like I was living in a military barracks. Now, if you're the manager of the Hotel Commonwealth, what do? You cut your marketing budget. You invest it back in customer service because your customers are doing all the marketing for you. I had a client last year who's got a #1 rated hotel in his area in New England. He cut his marketing budget by 60% last year. Doesn't need to market anymore. All the business comes in from TripAdvisor. On the other hand, what if you're the Courtyard Boston Downtown Tremont? What do? Well, it used to be you could market your way out of this. You could do more advertising, you could drop more direct mail, you could do more promotions. But that doesn't really work anymore because people simply look you up and you say, I don't want to stay in that dump. So what are you going to do? You're going to either fire all your staff and hire new ones, or retrain your existing staff. You're going to invest in significant upgrades to your infrastructure to make your place a decent place to stay, or you're going to hang out a sign that says, under new management. Right? Isn't it any surprise that there's so much turnover in the hotel industry these days? The only way you get out of jail on TripAdvisor is by changing management. They'll let you out for that, and you can start over again. So this industry was once hostage, is hostage to its customers, and secrets are getting harder to keep. This is spreading to other areas of the economy. Anyone here ever seen Glassdoor.com? This is a scary site. Glassdoor is where employees go to rate the companies they work for. It's recruiting in reverse. Employees go and say what they think of the companies and the CEOs, and they have star ratings of the CEOs. These are some of the worst CEOs in the financial services industry, by the way. And you can read their verbatim reviews of the companies. You know what else they share? Salary information. So imagine if you're recruiting and you're working in a big company, and you've got people inside your company who are telling the world how much money they make. It's all anonymous. What does that do to your bargaining leverage? A friend of mine runs a General Motors dealership, run it for 20 years. He says 20 years ago, people used to come in occasionally with those Consumer Reports details that they would pay $20 for. And they knew something about what it cost him what his costs were. So 5 years ago, everyone came in with that stuff because it was all free now. It was all on cars.com or it was on AutoBytel. He said in the last 2 years, they come in knowing exactly what other people have paid for cars, for the car they want to buy at his dealership in the last month. Because they use a site like Mint.com where people exchange that kind of information. What does that do to his leverage? The only advantage that auto dealers have had over the years is they knew stuff you didn't know. But my friend says that every day people come into his showroom knowing more about the cars they want to buy than his own salesmen do. Because they can. And his business has completely changed. He doesn't make money on new cars anymore. Makes all his money on used cars and repairs. Still a good business, but a very different business than it was just a few years ago. So these changes, this availability of information, of peer reviews, is spreading throughout the economy. And it will have implications that we can't even begin to understand right now. And one of the big ones that your students need to understand is its implications on the way corporations are organized. Because we can't afford hierarchy and job descriptions and lines of reporting and business units and departments and all that crap anymore. It's not viable for the economy that we work in because our job is no longer to get the product out the door. What we are seeing is that companies are beginning to break down those walls. They are beginning to eliminate layers between management and the workforce, and they're beginning to tear down the walls that have held information tightly within the confines of departments and work groups. Traditionally, if I owned a group, if I managed a group, I was rewarded based not on the success of the company, but on the ability of my group to meet its goals, to get the product out the door. But that inhibits so much because other people in the organization don't know the skills that exist. So if I'm a sales rep and I'm trying to close a sale in Germany, and I need someone who's a fluent German speaker, I have no way of finding out if such a person works in my company. But today, thanks to internal social networks, we can ask a question, we can find that person because it surfaces skills. And it turns out people are happy to share those kinds of skills if they're rewarded with peer recommendation and peer appreciation. People are happy to do that. What frustrates this is middle management, because middle management is still being rewarded based upon getting the widgets out the door. And so what we have to do is break down these silos. And the corporations of the future, such as they are, and I think corporations will look very different in the future, will be those that have much freer exchanges of information, much more fluid job descriptions, in which people migrate to the jobs that make the most sense for the things that they bring to the company at the time. McKinsey has written on this for the last 5 years, has focused on, has produced research about the networked organization and about the uses of social tools by organizations. They said about 15 months ago, our data show that fully networked enterprises are not only more likely to be market leaders or to be gaining market share, but also use management practices that lead to margins higher than other companies. So hierarchical organizations are under a lot of pressure right now. And what that means for your students is they've got to be flexible. And they've got to be able to take core skills that they have and figure out ways to apply them to new disciplines, because we are all going to be managing our careers, our own careers in the future. Now, our traditional system of education, which worked very well for a long time, looked something like that, in which all of the knowledge was invested in the person at the head of the classroom. And of course, what we taught in those days was facts. We taught right and wrong. And there was a right and wrong answer to almost everything. And the teacher knew what was right. And today, first of all, I think we have to start rethinking our concept of what's right and wrong. And we have to start rethinking our concept of how important is information. Why are facts even important at all anymore? We can get facts whenever we want them. Just pull out your smartphone. Google it. You got the fact. It's in your hand. 20 years ago, Bill Gates coined the term information at your fingertips. Seemed crazy at the time, 1991. There was no commercial internet. Today we got it. Smartphones. Smartphones will more than double. Smartphone shipments will more than double PC shipments this year. And the trajectory is like that. We're looking toward 1 billion people having essentially access to any information that is available on the internet within the palm of their hand within 5 years. And think of how that's going to change things. An executive at Google last year was speaking down at MIT, and he held up a Google phone and he said, with Google Translate, within 3 years, I'll be able to speak to almost anyone else in the world in real time using my phone. I'll be able to talk into the phone, it will translate in real time into that speaker's language and speak it back to them. How is that going to change things? Whether it happens in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, whatever. In fact, it's going to happen. And think of how that will change things when we're no longer so challenged by language barriers that have frustrated us for so many thousands of years. So information being power, the teacher having all the right answers, I think it has to give way to this new reality that information will be with us whenever we want it. We call these people nomads. The classroom of the future maybe looks like this. Certainly the life today for many people who have left the corporate world looks increasingly like this. Starbucks. I should have used the force. Starbucks is the new conference room. It's the new workplace, and it's the new classroom. And we have to be able to reach those people when they want to access the information, wherever they happen to be. And very often, it's in Starbucks or in front of you.
Meet me in front of Strand Books at 2. Oh man, really?
Whoa, cool. Take a photo of this. Share it to my circles.
Music, stop.
Hi, what's up?
Hey,
Hey.
you want to say something cool?
Yeah, sure. Is that a ukulele?
Yep. Okay, here goes.
It's beautiful.
Science fiction, right? You can buy that product today. Google Glasses. It's a prototype. Doesn't work nearly as well as that video does. But that kind of capability, having access to the full line of video, audio, all of your organization, your maps, information at your eyeball tips, if you will, is reality today, and it's just going to get better. Now, maybe a little disorienting, like Prezi. It may be something that it won't be for everyone, but it'll be out there, and we will have information with that kind of immediacy. So what kind of changes does that require for knowledge? Well, the question of right and wrong answers becomes more and more important, because right now we have more information than we know what to do with, right? And the problem is we don't know who to trust anymore. Right? It used to be we trusted the New York Times, or we trusted the Boston Globe, or Time Magazine. But those trusted agents may not be around in their current form in the future. Who do we trust now? We trust Google. Because Google puts it number one, it's got to be important, right? And pretty often it is. But that's not a very good barometer either. So the skills that people need to develop now is filtering, right? For all of human history, the problem has been we didn't have access to information. Information was rare. And in the last 10 years, it's completely changed. We're now swimming in information. And our problem is, how do we parse it, and how do we make sense of it, and how do we know what is truth? David Weinberger says it's easier in this network world to be convinced of false things. He's got a new book about that. David is a teacher at the Berkman Institute at Harvard, a wonderful thinker about the future of information and how things like wikis and like tags are changing our concept of how information is stored and where it's located and how we categorize it. In his latest book, he talks about the fact that that false information can now spread so quickly, or that we can choose to live in communities where only with other people who are just like us, kind of like Fox News on steroids, right? If you're a Second Amendment nut, you can choose to live entirely within a world of people who are passionate about gun rights. There's that much information, there are that many people expressing themselves about that topic these days. And this leads to misinformation, because the fact that people can publish something does not mean that they should, and it doesn't mean that it's accurate. One of my favorite quotes about the internet: we've all heard that a million monkeys banging on a million typewriters will eventually reproduce the entire works of Shakespeare. Now, thanks to the internet, we know this is not true. It all looks good on a screen. Small companies can look like large companies. And bad research can easily look like good research. $20 SurveyMonkey account, 100 respondents, and all of a sudden you've got research. You've got truth. No, you don't. You've got a bad survey instrument that's delivering bad data. But you can find people who are willing to believe that it's true. So the skills that you have to teach are how to separate good information from bad information, how to decide what is true, what is useful, what is factual. We will have machines that will help us do this. Did anyone watch last year the IBM Watson Jeopardy competition, in which an IBM computer absolutely thrashed the two top rating Jeopardy champions of all time? Now, what people don't know about this so much is that computer actually, the uses of that technology are for much more than just answering questions. This technology is designed to go through millions and millions and billions of documents and look for threads. Watson is a search engine in reverse. It's designed to tell you what questions to ask, because it can look through millions of case histories of medical research, of breast cancer cases, look through millions of cases, and it can find threads that no human could ever possibly find. And then it will tell researchers, have you tried checking this? It's no wonder the medical industry is so nuts over getting hold of this technology. The financial industry, obviously, is crazy about it too. They want to find patterns in the stock markets that have never been seen before. This technology, as it makes its way into the mainstream, is going to cause changes that I think will be equally as sweeping as Google, because it will take vast amounts of information that will help us to divine truth, and we don't know what the impact of that will be. So, what do you want to be when you grow up? That was the question that I always heard as a kid. And I think the question now is not what do you want to be, because it's very likely that job won't be there anymore. Of the top jobs, of the top 20 jobs in the U.S. today, more than half weren't even on the list 5 years ago. So all of these jobs, these new opportunities will emerge, and old jobs will go away. And so preparing for a career is not going to be so relevant anymore. What's going to be important is to prepare the right skills, ask the right skills, prepare for the right questions. I believe the most important skills in the future are going to be resourcefulness, judgment, risk tolerance, reinvention, and collaboration. And what I mean by this resourcefulness, I mean the ability to find out what you need to know. Because simply having access to information is not enough. It's having access to truth, and it's being able to make sense of that information in a means that's contextually relevant to what you're trying to accomplish. Judgment, knowing what's bad from good, knowing that Survey Monkey survey is trash, is going to be important. Risk tolerance, something that we badly need to develop in our culture, that this country and really the world has been unable to develop outside of Silicon Valley and maybe Shanghai, is risk tolerance. Is embracing risk, because our organizations are not oriented toward risk. We punish people who take risks, because if you make a mistake, you get punished. In Silicon Valley, if you make a mistake, that's part of growing. You can't be a CEO in Silicon Valley unless you failed, unless you had a spectacular failure. They understand that tolerance for risk, that taking chances, is a fundamental function of success. Constant reinvention of our skills and of our jobs, finding ways that we can apply skills to possibly ways that no one else has thought. Not waiting for the job to be posted, but creating the job ourselves. And collaborating with people across business lines, across departmental lines, and across geographic lines. Because anything that can be done digitally in the future will be done digitally. And once something is digital, it can move anywhere in the world at light speed. And it will. It will move to the place where it can be done most efficiently. We'll see more people like Molly Catchpole. Molly Catchpole was a 22-year-old nanny. She's 23 now. Last year, a 22-year-old nanny. She was objected to Bank of America's imposition of a $5 surcharge on her debit card. And so she went to a website called change.org, and remember that name because it's going to change a lot. Change.org, and she started a petition to get Bank of America to roll back the fee. And within 5 days, she had 150,000 signatures. And within 2 weeks, she had 300,000 signatures. And 2 weeks later, Bank of America rolled back the fee. A 22-year-old nanny in Washington, D.C. had beaten them. She wasn't done, because she also was upset a month later when Verizon imposed its harebrained $2 fee for online payments. If you remember that one. Remember how fast that one went by the boards? That was Molly. Molly started a petition. 4 days later, Verizon pulled the fee. Once again, 22-year-old nanny beats a big corporation in its own game. Molly's not looking for work anymore. Molly's got 2 jobs right now. She's working as a consultant on community activism and how to generate grassroots support. She's doing quite well. She has reinvented herself. Robin Ezrock. Robin Esrock is having fun. Robin Esrock didn't apply for a job. Robin Esrock just took an opportunity. He blogged about something he loved. He traveled. He blogged about it. He found an audience. He began posting videos. And he was unique. He had a special quality about his work. And he got picked up by a cable TV network. And he's got a very successful career now that he started all by himself. He didn't apply for a job. He made his own job. That is how young people will increasingly have to look forward to the future. It's very exciting when you think about it. There's going to be tremendous opportunities to do what we love and actually make a good living doing it. But we're going to have to be resourceful and innovative and creative. And with that, I thank you for your time. I hope the slides didn't make anybody sick. I'd be interested in anybody. My wife saw the first version of these, and she said, and my wife gets migraines, and she said, I'm getting a headache. Yeah, I think we have a minute or two for questions, if anyone has any, or I'll be here afterwards if you'd like to chat some more. Yes, ma'am.
So on your list of skill sets for current and future students, resourcefulness, judgment, versatile, mentoring, collaboration, what about responsibility?
Question is, what about responsibility as a core skill? Yeah, I mean, yes. But I think that if you're not responsible in the future, I think you're going to be unemployed. I mean, I don't know how you can make a living without being responsible, because nobody's going to carry you anymore. So, but responsibility certainly is a core skill. Teaching responsibility. I think teaching. It's a good point, and one of the mistakes that's easy to make when you think about this is, oh well, we'll just let 100 flowers bloom, right? Self-educated, self-paced training. It was very popular in the 70s, if you remember. Sort of students make up their own rules, and what we got was people didn't learn very much. And I think you still need accountability. You absolutely still need accountability. But I would argue that accountability for relating facts is not good preparation for the future. Accountability for discerning truths and applying innovation is going to be more important. With that, I'm going to say thank you very much.